he was ultimately destroyed with his family, kingdom, and everything else, because he misused Lord Shiva's benediction. Because of his material power, he became very proud and puffed up, so that he dared kidnap the wife of Lord Ramachandra. In this way, he was ruined. To get material benedictions from Lord Shiva is not difficult, but actually these are not benedictions. The Prachetas received benediction from Lord Shiva, and as a result they attained the shelter of the lotus feet of Vishnu. This is real benediction. The gopis also worship Lord Shiva in Vrindavan, and the Lord is still staying there as Gopishwar. The gopis, however, pray that Lord Shiva bless them by giving them Lord Krishna as their husband. There is no harm in worshipping the demigods, provided that one's aim is to return home, back to Godhead. Generally, people go to the demigods for material benefit, as indicated in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 20. Kamaistaistar hritagyana prapadyante nityevataha tang niyamam astaya prakritya niyata swaya. Those whose minds are distorted by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. One enamored by material benefits is called Hritagyana, one who has lost his intelligence. In this connection, it is to be noted that sometimes in revealed scriptures, Lord Shiva is described as being non-different from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The point is that Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu are so intimately connected that there is no difference in opinion. The actual fact is, Ekale Ishvara Krishna Ara Sabhabhritya. The only Supreme Master is Krishna, and all others are his devotees or servants. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, chapter 5, verse 142. This is the real fact, and there is no difference of opinion between Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu in this connection. Nowhere in revealed scripture does Lord Shiva claim to be equal to Lord Vishnu. This is simply the creation of the so-called devotees of Lord Shiva, who claim that Lord Shiva and Lord Vishnu are one. This is strictly forbidden in the Vaishnav Tantra, Yastu Narayanang Devam. Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, and Lord Brahma are intimately connected as master and servants, Shiva Varinchi Nutam. Vishnu is honored and offered obeisances by Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. To consider that they are all equal is a great offense. They are all equal in the sense that Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all others are his eternal servants. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurim Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I had a god brother of mine, disciple of Srila Prabhupada, who was in Calcutta one time, and he saw a magician on the street, and the magician was making things appear in his hands. And so he was watching, and then a big crowd gathered. It was the morning time. And he told me this story, and he said, so the magician was making raisins appear, or a bunch of grapes, something like that. But he wasn't a magician, he was a yogi. So they're actually appearing. He had, what is it called, Prapti Siddhi. You know that Prabhupada's Mridanga guru, his guru, that's right, his Mridanga guru's guru. He said, I was a young boy, and my teacher said, what would you like? You know the story? What would you like? He said, I would like some fresh pomegranates from Kabul in Afghanistan. Of course, they were in Calcutta. He said, all right. And he went into the next room, waited a few minutes, and he came out and he said, okay, there you are. And on the table was not just a pomegranate, but a branch of a tree filled with pomegranates, and the branch was still dripping sap. So he told Prabhupada that story, and Prabhupada told us that story. So there are great achievements for one who worships Lord Shiva. So my friend was also in Calcutta. he went over to him and he said, well, what's the point of a bunch of grapes? Why don't you get something proper? Why don't you get a burfi that we can offer to Lord Krishna in the temple? He said, and in India, this means yes. It means no. It means whatever. It means pay what you like, you know. Anyway, so he did his mantras, and he opened his hand, and there was a burfi. So the devotee thought, oh, very good. Anyway, he's touched it now. I'm not going to offer it to Krishna. He said, so why don't you do something really, really impressive and put it back where it came from? Okay. He said, but wait. And the devotee took his pen, and on the bottom of the sweet, he wrote an X, put an X, and he gave it back to the yogi. He said, the crowd was watching. So the yogi, it's gone. And then the devotee said to him, where did you get it from? He said, oh, I got it from the Mohan Singh Bazaar, the sweet shop, sweet seller. In Calcutta, they make very nice milk sweets, you see, famous all over the world. And so he went to the Mohan Singh Bazaar, found the sweet market. He said, I would like to get some burfis for Lord Krishna in the Radha Krishna temple. Can you sell me? He said, yes, take your pick. He said, well, I have to be very choosy because Krishna only wants the best. He said, okay. He said, can I look at them all? He said, yes, okay. So he was looking at them all, and he came to one, and there was the X. As they would say in India, wow, wow, wow. Wow, wow, wow. So another friend who was a sannyasi, as sometimes happens in India, he'd had his passport, ticket, money, and bag stolen. And he was in Rishikesh, a famous place where Lord Shiva is also worshipped. And in Rishikesh, there was a lady called the rice lady, and she was the wife of the postmaster in the post office. And in the morning, she used to, do the regular housewife duties, clean the post office, cook for her husband. But in the afternoon, she became, the rice lady. And she was in the middle of a field, and she had a little hut. And you could go to her and you could find any object that you had lost, any object that had been stolen. So why was she called the rice lady? Because she had a bowl of rice by her, and she would take a handful of rice, give it to you, you hold the rice in your hand like that, and you think of the object that you've lost, or you think of the object that's been stolen. Then you give her back the rice, she holds it in her hands, and she says where the item is. So this devotee went in. And as the devotee went in, there was a family in front of the rice lady, and they'd come back after a few weeks because she had helped them to find a missing bridegroom. So the boy, just before the wedding, had run off. These boys, what can you do, eh? These boys. So the boy had run off just before the wedding. And the rice lady had told them, oh, he's gone all the way to South India. He's in Kumbakonam and he's in a particular hotel. He's that specific. So they went to the hotel, they found the boy. And now the girl was married, and both bride and groom, or husband and wife now, they were coming back along with the parents to thank the rice lady because you've saved our reputation, you've saved our daughter's life. So they were just in front. So the devotee, sannyasi, he took that as a good sign that she's serious. So he did the thing, and she said, oh, she said, your bag is still in Rishikesh. She said, you have to go through the marketplace. You take the third road on the right, the second road on the right after that, and then the first left. You go up some stairs. It's a green door. So the devotee followed the advice, knocked on the green door. Okay, that's the end of class for today. And the door opened, and as soon as the person behind the door saw, I didn't do it, I didn't do it, it wasn't me, it wasn't me. Anyway, he went inside the house, and the bag, he threw the bag out, slammed the door, and he heard the devotee heard the locks going. So the devotee got his passport, his money, his ticket, everything back. So when he went back to the rice lady and said, thank you very much. He said, how do you do that? How do you do that? How do you become a rice lady? You can make a lot of money like that all over the world. Someone's child is missing. Oh, your child is over here. Anyway, so she said, for 6 lifetimes, I have worshipped Lord Shiva. This is my 6th lifetime worshipping Lord Shiva. And, it's very powerful, very powerful. So Lord Shiva gives benedictions. He's Ashutosh. Ashutosh means he's very easy to please. Ashutosh also means he's very easy to anger. But Ashutosh means also very easy to please. So if you go carefully, you also get the benediction. In England, should I tell more stories? It's just to highlight something. Okay. Stories keep us awake on a Monday morning, you see, that's the thing. It's called the post-feast sleepiness. Most Monday mornings for devotees are... So, in England there's a devotee, he's temple president of one temple, and his father also has a Shiva Baba in India. And he fixes cars. Anyway, he had a very expensive contract to fix a BMW car. And when he fixed the car, it was going to make him, some money, quite a bit of money. So he just couldn't get it to start. And he tried everything. So in desperation, he phoned up his Shiva man, his mystic in Gujarat, in the west of India. He said, look, I can't get the car to start. What's the problem? He said, oh, let me think about that a minute. And in that moment, he saw the car, he saw the engine, he saw the connections. He said, you haven't connected the blue wire. There's 3 blue wires. You haven't connected the last blue wire, wherever that's supposed to go. You haven't connected that. So this devotee's father went back, connected that blue wire, turned on the engine. He's an amazing chap. Amazing chap. I remember my daughter had lost her green card. You remember? Chelsea had lost her green card. So we also took advantage of. Mystic, tell us where the missing document is. If you like, I'll give you his phone number. Where's my missing Krishna consciousness? It was there some years ago. I've lost it. Can you tell me where it is? Anyway, so worshipping Lord Shiva for a certain number of lifetimes produces great results. Prabhupada said that Ravi Shankar was a very good sitar player because he'd been playing for 6 lifetimes. So whatever you do for 6 lifetimes, you'll be a real expert. Whether it's piano, you see these videos of children in China, a Chinese 3-year-old, and he's sitting at the piano, and you think, what's a 3-year-old? Maybe chopsticks, dee 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 dee, and all of a sudden the 3-year-old goes like that, and you think, how did they do that? How does a child prodigy become a child prodigy? Is it just the brain? No, it's the mind that has been refined over many lifetimes, because you bring the mind with you as your cabin baggage. And accordingly, your mind will transport you to a certain group of senses. The soul will take birth there. Anyway, so sometimes, because we as devotees of Krishna, we've been trained to see Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, correct. So sometimes when we see a picture of Lord Shiva, our brain goes, not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, someone I'm not going to surrender to, out, Shiva, out. But if we actually read the pages of the Bhagavatam, this keeps coming up in every canto. Every canto, Lord Shiva makes an appearance as the supreme devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So be careful. Be careful. Every time you see a picture of Shiva, you should not think, no, I don't want to be devoted to this person. No, but don't be disrespectful. It's like, you have, in Krishna consciousness, we have a guru, but when you see someone else's guru, you don't think, no, I don't want to see him. I don't want to see him. I don't want to get anywhere near him because he's not my guru. Well, some people do. I know some people do. No. He's not that impressive. I don't like him that much. He's the one I rejected in order to accept this one as my guru. So we don't want to do that. But in the case of guru, we're meant to see a certain equanimity. But in the case of Lord Shiva, we're meant to see that he has his position. And this is everything that Prabhupada has told us. The devatas have their positions. Now, they know their position with reference to the Supreme Lord. They know who they are. But we may become confused. And so it's up to us to not be confused. And a Vaishnava is a person who understands that Vishnu is the Supreme. In actual fact, in the Vedas we find that there are many, many gods, and it is said that Lord Agni is at the foot, and Lord Vishnu is the Supreme. Then when we come to the Rig Veda, we find Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashanti Surayo Deviva Chakshura Tatam Tad Vipraso Vipanyo Jagravangsa Samindate Vishnu Yat Paramam Padam. Vishnu Paramam Padam. Vishnu Paramam Padam. Paramam, highest, Padam, abode. So Vishnu is in the highest abode. Wherever you look in the Vedas, you will find that. It's not such a difficult thing. And yet, why is it difficult? It's very difficult for Indian people whose family perhaps worship Lord Shiva. It's very difficult for them because when they think of Lord Shiva, they have a lot of affectionate thoughts. When we think of Lord Shiva, perhaps we just think, blank. But it is surprising. It's a very interesting phenomenon that I've witnessed over 50 years, is that devotees come to Krishna consciousness, they know nothing of Lord Shiva. They know nothing of Lord Shiva. Then after 20 years, and 20 years during which they may not have had enough money to be a proper grihasta, they suddenly think to themselves, actually, I don't mind worshipping Lord Shiva. After all, Prabhupada said we could. And then they get really seriously into worshipping Lord Shiva. And sometimes it's okay, sometimes they can manage a bit of both, a little bit of Lord Shiva, a little bit of Vishnu, a little bit of Lord Shiva, a little bit of Vishnu. And sometimes they sacrifice their japa. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. That's one bead bag, I have another bead bag. Om Namo Shivaya, Om Namo Shivaya, Om Namo Shivaya. You would be surprised if I told you. You'd be surprised. Just as in some way we find devotees, they become deviated into, crystals or Rudraksha beads or whatever it is. They go Bhakti Yoga, Yoga, Hatha Yoga, Shiva, Mahadev, Bom Shankar. We lose devotees sometimes. Because in the beginning you knew nothing about the demigods. Now you know something about the demigods and you know how powerful it is to be connected to them. Especially if you can satisfy them or please them. Let me just try. And immediately a devotee becomes, wealthy. And unfortunately, there is nothing more intoxicating than when a poor man or woman has been given wealth that they didn't have before. It's confusing. We don't know the story of Sudam Brahman afterwards, do we? Okay? We don't know Sudam Brahman's story. I'm sure that might be an interesting story for us. What happened next? Sudama, the sequel. We know he went to see Krishna, poverty-stricken Brahmin, gave him some chip rice. He came home, And his wife was standing there, beautifully clad in a sari and, nose rings and jewels. House had been transformed. That's the end of the story? I don't think so. There's a sequel. It's just I don't know it. So Prabhupada generally is pointing to two things. One is the reality of the demigods. One time they went to Prabhupada and said, Prabhupada, why are there so many demigods? Prabhupada said, you do not know what it takes to run a universe. Very big universe. Takes a lot. But these are Krishna's fingers and toes. Krishna is supreme and he's operating all these demigods. Sometimes even they forget. Like Lord Indra. Lord Indra seems to periodically go through some amnesia. And I've wondered about this because, when Krishna is a little boy, Indra comes and he you know the story, he rains on, and Krishna picks up Govardhan Hill, and then he's forgiven, and then he worships the Lord with an abhishek. His Airavata, his elephant, comes and showers Lord Krishna with, the Surabi with milk and the Airavata with water. And Indra's learned his lesson. But what is the pastime later on, just a few years later, when Indra again forgets who he is? It's at the back of my mind, I can't remember. Do you know? Anyway, he forgets again, and I'm thinking, why did Indra forget? It's just a few earth years, so why was Indra... He has a tendency to become forgetful. Therefore, Indra is Indra in one life, and is periodically Kshine Punye Marchilokam Vishanti. He's forgetting his identity and coming down to this world. It's a very delicate position. And sometimes people wonder, why is it in the history of the Hare Krishna movement, observers of the Hare Krishna movement, they look and they see, he became such a powerful person. He had thousands of people, bowing down at his feet. Why did he fall? Why did he fall? And then they say, why do all the gurus in ISKCON fall down? Okay. That's sometimes that question. Do you ever get that question? No. That's because you have nice people here in Switzerland. It's like the heavenly planet. But people say, in ISKCON, your guru fell down. Why? Why did he possibly become so intoxicated with power? Because like Indra, one who is not able to deal with such level of power over other human beings can very easily become intoxicated. Power is a very great intoxicant. Just like heroin, more than heroin. More than anything, to have power over other human beings. Isn't it, Krishna Prema Rupa? You know these things. Supremely powerful. See, he sits in a chair, you have to sit on a cushion. It's already started. So we're just talking about the comparative position of Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna. So Prabhupada did two things for us. First, he points out that the demigods do actually exist. There is such thing as the demigods. And then he has to say the relative position. Because in order to make sure that we do not commit nam aparad, because one of the main aparads, which number is it? 2 or 3? I forget. 2, is it? To consider the demigods on the same level as the Supreme Personality of Godhead is an offense against the Lord. So we're very, very careful to avoid that. However, that does not mean we do not understand the universal setup. So in the pages of the Bhagavatam, every canto of the Bhagavatam reveals to us the identity of Lord Shiva. Now, sometimes it is said even partial incarnations of Lord Shiva do not understand Krishna's position. When you go to Dwarka, in the west coast of Gujarat, they will tell you stories of how Durvasa Muni came to see Lord Krishna and Rukmini and was very insulting towards them, extremely insulting towards them. So one can become very easily intoxicated either as a partial expansion or a portion or... So or one who has been benefited by Lord Shiva. So there's something to watch out for. So we will deal with many people in our lives who are very apparently spiritually powerful because they have some mystic ability. Maybe not here in Zurich. Maybe not here in Zurich. But in certain parts of India you can go. And there are people who are amazingly powerful and they have some mystical ability. And for us, who sometimes cannot even find our bead bag, we wonder, how is it possible that a person can find any lost item? They must be spiritually better than all the devotees. Okay? Or a person who starts a spiritual movement, for instance. Sometimes we find that, don't we? How the devotees of Lord Krishna, they have to work really, really hard in order to maintain a temple or to, buy a temple vehicle. It's a real effort. You have to do marathon after marathon after marathon. And someone else starts a spiritual movement, and he's into sort of, the Yogi Baba is into Kriya Shakti and stimulates your spine, and the Kundalini will rise. And he's got thousands of followers and millions of pounds, and a big, he's just bought a big hotel on the top of a hill in Switzerland, and you think, how did he do that? How did he do? Am I in the right religion or the wrong one? Maybe I could do some Kriya Shakti and my Kundalini stimulating. So periodically we lose devotees because they're attracted to the apparent manifestation of power. But this residual power often comes from many lifetimes of worshipping Lord Shiva. So a person worships Lord Shiva for 6 lifetimes, and in this lifetime is interested in Shiva and a little bit of Vishnu. And we see that it becomes very powerful. So don't become confused. You're only ever seeing one lifetime. That's the difficulty. You don't know what your lifetime will manifest in the next lifetime. Hopefully we all go back to home, back to Godhead, as Prabhupada promised us, if we follow this process. But whatever we do, the life of a devotee is infinitely more full of manifestation than the life of anyone who's worshipped the devatas for a previous life or lives. So don't be confused. I was saying how periodically we lose devotees to crystals and angels and Rudraksha beads and different forms of yoga. The main thing to understand, as Prabhupada said, is that he said material enjoyment of any kind is bhoga. And material enjoyment or bhoga will lead to disease of some sort, either mental or physical disease. And this is called roga. So bhoga leads to roga. He says, and the solution to all of this is yoga. So bhoga leads to roga, and the solution is yoga. You can have that one for free. Use it in your next class. So here in this verse we're finding that the Supreme Lord can heal any disease. So let's look and see what Prabhupada says here. So the Prachetas, they got the grace of Lord Shiva. Now, as I said, in every canto, Lord Shiva is extolled not only as a devotee of the Lord, but he's also teaching the prayers sung by Lord Shiva. When this came out, some godbrothers of mine who were, sort of the crack team of Sankirtan brahmacharis in America, they were feared in every temple. The doors would open, and in would come those 5 brahmacharis, striding across the room with their reputation glowing. Yeah. Anyway, every morning they used to chant the song sung by Lord Shiva, because it was something new that Prabhupada had given to them. Every time a new canto came out, there was some stuti, some portion of hymns that you could recite. So one time it was the prayers of the Narayan Kavacha shield. Devotees were learning the Narayan Kavacha shield. Another time it was the something else. Narayan Kavacha shield. And anyway, so this time it was these particular brahmacharis, they chanted the prayers sung by Lord Shiva, because it says that as a phalashruti, as the benediction at the end of the prayer, that one who sings these prayers will get lots of benefits. One who sings these prayers in the morning will do very well. So Lord Shiva has taught this, and the devotees of Vishnu are singing it. So let's have his identity confirmed there. And controversy in England is one of our favorite kirtan leaders was leading a interesting thing happened actually. I was at we have this big hall. You can seat like 800, more than 800 people. And my daughter Janavi was playing violin from someone who is from Switzerland or Germany, I think, Deva Premal and her husband. And they packed the hall. More than 800 people were there. And at one point she began singing, and she was singing Jai Radha Madhava Jai Kunja Bihari, and everybody was singing. 800 people were singing, and I was thinking, that's a song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. You can't sing that. That's copyrighted. Unfortunately, folks, it's not copyrighted. And everyone was singing, and you know how they do these yoga things. Jai Radha Madhava. So I'm thinking, devotees, we have to, we can fill a hall as well. So a couple of years later, this particular devotee filled the hall to bursting point, and was doing kirtan, lively kirtan. But some devotees weren't completely satisfied because he was singing Mahadeva Shambho. But if we take from the pages of the, Srimad Bhagavatam, and we understand the sentiments of the people that we're dealing with, that the yoga crowd are very much Shiva bhaktas. It doesn't do any harm. That's my personal opinion, and it's a personal opinion given from the seat of Vyas. But we have to be careful that those devotees who do sing that in public don't later on, grow matted locks and start chanting on Rudraksha beads, because that does happen occasionally. They become confused. There's a lot of confusion on the way up the ladder to Krishna. There's a beautiful illustration in a book by someone called John Climacus. John Climacus was a Christian writer many hundreds of years ago, and he was called John of the Ladder because he wrote, like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he wrote of the different stages in developing love of God. So as you're going up the ladder, you're becoming free from ego and lust and greed and anger and depression and anxiety and feeling that God has, left you and that God doesn't like you really that much. All the feelings that we as devotees get. Then you get to halfway up the ladder, and then these devils, even more devils, start attacking you. Who are the devils starting to attack you? Well, pride of knowledge, a feeling that you have become so close to God you can do what you like. All the standard things. So it's a long ladder. So along that ladder, just as in Tantra Yoga, it is taught that as the Kundalini rises along the spine, there are different demigods, different portions of the spine that offer the yogi different temptations. And those temptations will become more and more subtle as you progress. And that is also there in the life of a Vaishnava. When we're on Sankirtan as a young person selling books, we may get tempted by, the warmth of a shop. You've had that temptation. You're out on Saki Hall Street and it's so cold, and you're really tempted by the fan under the shop. You just have to get somewhere warm and warm up. And then you're thinking, while you're standing in the warm air, you're thinking, why am I doing this with my life? I'm out here selling these books in the cold. I'm hungry. Then the next temptation comes along. The next devil comes along. Yeah, you see a cream bun in the shop. Anyway, those are the sort of lower level temptations. But as you progress, there's temptations become more subtle. And the interesting part of that is that sometimes they attack our greatest, they produce our greatest fears. You know, devotees can be sometimes tempted by indulging in fear. What if it's all made up? What if Krishna consciousness is all made up? What if Krishna is the Supreme Personality, but the truth is to be found in another sampradaya? What if I'm just not cut out for this? What happens? You know, the mind says so many things, so many doubts, and they're subtle. Whereas the cream bun shouts, and the warm air shouts at you. These other temptations, they whisper in your ear while you're chanting japa. You're not doing this right. You should never have become a devotee. You're not the right one. All these people don't like you. They don't like you. You're not loved. If you want love, you have to go somewhere else. And so we are so much temptation is there. Anyway, there are some so-called devotees of Lord Shiva who are after material benefit, and these are the ones who will be found in the temples dedicated to Lord Shiva. It's interesting that when Lord Chaitanya went around India, he visited the temples of Lord Shiva. Many different temples of Lord Shiva. And Prabhupada says later on, he says to worship Lord Shiva in order to go back to Godhead is bona fide. Anyway, first thing he says that you take benediction from Lord Shiva, but because it's material, you may end up, as we say in England, a cropper. You come up, you know, your life is ruined. So Ravana's life was ruined. He's a great devotee of Lord Shiva. That's why he had the power. We read Ravana could fly in the air on a chariot pulled by mules. Where does that power come from? It doesn't come from an ordinary human being. He had, what's his name? Marichi, the master of mysticism, who could change his form from that of a human being to that of a golden deer. Okay, these things come from Lord Shiva. So all this benediction from Lord Shiva is fine. But if it then puts you in a situation where you think, let me steal the wife of Lord Vishnu, then it's a big problem. So that's Ravana finished. And he was finished. Even though he could manifest 10 heads, Lord Ram dispatched him. And the indication that he was going to be vanquished was that when Ram came onto the battlefield, Ravana circumambulated Ram. But you are meant to circumambulate pradakshina, do pradakshina, which means keeping the person that you're honoring on your right shoulder. That's the right way. Just so Tulsi Devi, we say clockwise. You're meant to, pradakshina. And so Ravana circumambulated Ram, apradakshina, with his left shoulder towards Ram, immediately spelling out in symbols, you're going to be ruined. Who was the demon? Was his name Vrikasura? Did I get that right? Who got a benediction and then touched his own head? Who was that? I forget, I just read it. Anyway, there's a demon that got a benediction, he touched his own head, and he was finished. So, material benedictions do not lead to spiritual consciousness, even though you perform many great austerities to do it. Look at Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu did not nod off during japa. He didn't have trouble with celibacy. He didn't have trouble with cream buns or having to stand in the warm air. He was resolute. He was fixed, absolutely fixed in his determination. He was the very emblem of austerity. There's nothing that he couldn't control. His senses were so controlled that even the ants ate away his body. The termites actually ate away all his body, and he was still meditating. It wasn't that he didn't know philosophy. He knew philosophy. But the power that he got, even from Lord Brahma, You see, even Lord Brahma on occasion gives out material benedictions. But the material benediction he got didn't make him a better person. And he thought that he had he'd become immortal. And he was proud. There's one tradition that says that the pillar from which Lord Nrsingadev came into that pillar was sculpted the heads of every opponent that Hiranyakashipu had killed. So it was a beautiful pillar decorated with sculpted likenesses of all the different people. It was that pillar, that special pillar, his favorite pillar, from which the Lord came and said, even your favorite pillar, nothing is beyond my grasp. So vanquished all the time. And it's the end of a long career. So sometimes we see that there are better spiritual practitioners than us who seem to be more in control. They can do yoga poses, breathing. They're better celibates than we are. They can fast better than we can. But the end result of all that may be that they again become intoxicated by pride and lose everything. And usually the cycle in human life is that you rise up and you fall down. You rise up and you fall down. You rise up and you fall down. And the only person that can cure that disease is taking shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. That's the ultimate. Because the Lord's feet are the boat that take us across the ocean of samsara. Only that. He alone is known as the giver of moksha, or Mukunda. No one else is known as Mukunda. So then Prabhupada talks about the gopis worship Lord Shiva in Vrindavan, and Lord Shiva is still there in Vrindavan. I don't know if you've ever walked around Vrindavan, done the Brajmandal Prikrama. I would advise every brahmachari to do it, and every householder to do it. And it's tough, it's rough, and you have no shoes for 128 miles of walking over 1 month. It takes 1 month to do it between full moon and full moon. You go around all these different places, but the person that you go to see first before beginning it is Lord Shiva. You go to there are 4. There's Gopishwar Mahadev at one part of Vrindavan, who's Lord Shiva is worshipped as in his form as a gopi, that he wanted to take shelter of the Rasa Leela and was given that benediction. But you also go to see the Kshetrapal. The Kshetrapalas are 4 Shivalingas in different parts of Vrindavan. So you go and you worship one of those. And then you get permission from Lord Shiva to enter into Vrindavan. Okay. So interesting, Prabhupada says there's 2 things we should point out here. And he's brought them out for us in the purport. He says that sometimes in Shastra we find that Lord Shiva is given sufficient honor and even called equal to Lord Vishnu in some Shastras. And Prabhupada explains this, that it is because they are so close that their opinions are the same. He said, but in no Shastra do we find that Lord Shiva is exalted as the equal of Lord Vishnu, or rather, nowhere in revealed scripture does Lord Shiva claim to be an equal to Lord Vishnu. And of course, as you pointed, I think Shikshastakam, as you pointed out, Lord Shiva is also depicted as being in meditation. When Krishna is in meditation in Dwarka, he's meditating on Krishna. When Lord Shiva is in meditation, he's meditating on the name of Ram. So there's a difference there. If you're in meditation, it's because you want to achieve a higher state than that which you have. So for all these different reasons, Shiva Varanchinu Tam, they're connected. But Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all others are his servants. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anything? Anything or nothing? Bursting with nothingness. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. I just had the question, I mean, this is lingering in my mind for a long time, the position of the demigods in terms of being devotees also, and at the same time acting very much like non-devotees so often.
Yeah.
So how to bring these two together?
Yeah, I mean, we also have devotees that act like non-devotees. Prabhupada says the demigods, they take shelter of Krishna, or take shelter of the Supreme Lord, often by going to the milk ocean, and every Hindi movie has this, they come to the milk ocean, and they go, Pai Imam, Pai Imam, Pai Imam. It's like, save us, save us. So when the chips are down, when there are difficulties, then the demigods turn to the Lord. But it is quite possible that in many cases they, they're in a state of being intoxicated with pleasure. It's difficult to be a demigod. Do you remember what it was like? The last time you were a god? You had to take birth again in Switzerland. Kshine punye marchilo kamvishanti. Which, I must add, is a little bit heavenly as well. You could have taken birth in the north of England. Yeah. Which is also cold. But the cold here is a different kind of cold. So it seems that they are devotees, from everything that Prabhupada writes, it seems to me that they are devotees who, they know that the Lord is supreme, but they don't always behave in a way that they want to remember it constantly. They're suras. They are suras, they're not asuras, but they're not nityasuris. And the difference between the suras and the nityasuris is that the nityasuris are supremely liberated, whereas the demigods are conditioned by the higher levels of sattva guna. So it's very pleasant, and they're very religious, but just so sometimes we find, who was it, Chitrarath? Chitrarath, he was surrounded by lady friends, and a Sankirtan party went by and he didn't join it, and for that offence he had to, accept something else. If I got the story right. And it said that, if you want to be born without one of your legs, or with no legs in your next life, don't get up when the Sankirtan party comes by, if you should want no legs. But those who have legs, when the Kirtan party comes by, they should stand up and join it. Yeah. So, I mean, the demigods are, the position is a big range, is a big spectrum of demigods also. Some are pure devotees, completely dedicated, and some are very highly placed, conditioned souls. But in general, we find, just like in some places, you find that, just like, in this, as we were talking the other day, just in Switzerland, there was a point, I'm sure, where everybody was a Christian. So everybody was a devotee of Christ. Everybody was a devotee of God. They may need reminding occasionally by the church bells, that's what they're for, to remind you, oh yes. Or, from the Muslims, everybody's a Muslim. But some people are better Muslims than others. And they all have to be reminded. Time for prayer. Allahu Akbar. Come to prayer. So the demigods are like that. They need to be reminded occasionally. And we see in the story of Lord Indra, he not only periodically forgets his position, but he seems to regularly forget his position. So when Shiva makes an appearance in the Bhagavatam, it's usually pretty good, right? Yeah? But when Indra makes an appearance in the Bhagavatam, it's like, Indra's forgotten again. He's come to, what is he doing now? What's he up to now? He's stealing the horse from the sacrifice, so the last sacrifice cannot be performed because he has envy, or he's fearful of his position, because it's a temporary position. The demigods have temporary positions. And even Lord Brahma, when he makes an appearance, it seems, he mistakes the Lord's position. He somehow doesn't understand Krishna's identity, and has to be reminded. And then he has to, he gives benediction to, well, of course that was earlier, but he gives benediction to Hiranyakashipu. And we can say that was probably his arrangement, the arrangement of the Supreme Lord, so that the incarnation of Lord Nrsimhadev could make an appearance. So sometimes like that. So people under the full control of the Lord seem to make a mistake, so that the Lord can come and correct that mistake and be seen to correct it. It's like Jai and Vijay. Jai and Vijay, they're absolutely soul-surrendered devotees, but they're appearing as demons just so the Lord can come and have the fun of vanquishing them, fighting with them. Is that all right? Happy Monday, everyone. I wish you a fun-filled day. Well, on behalf of my wife and myself, I would like to say thank you for your hosting us over this 5 days. It seems longer, but in another way it seems to have gone by very quickly. And we hope to come back one day, don't we? And see everybody again. But I will say now, I will take no administrative responsibility in the Swiss Yatra. I will come, I'll be a friendly face, I'll even play cartels. And then I will go. So, just telling you, no one that knows how to administrate a yatra should ever let me be in control of anything. I'll come, I'll give a talk, I'll smile, I'll nod my head, I'll go yes, yes. I'll even sympathize with you, and then I'll go. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Swiss Yatra ki jai. I must say, you have, demigod breakfasts here. Demigod breakfasts. Wait till and lunches. Oh my God. But that is the problem. That is the problem. Who would ever want to leave Switzerland? Anyway, Switzerland is the heavenly planets. And my karma's run out. Now I must fall down to England. Out of the sky. Literally. Fall off my silver chariot. Down onto this ground of England. Third world. Back to the third world. Jai Krishna, you are required.
Yeah, there's like when you search for Krishna Krishna Hare